Hello, good evening, everyone. This is Seewing Yee from the Yee Real Estate Network. Thank you for all of you attending. We have a pretty decent turnout, so very good to hear, and I really appreciate you guys taking time out of your day to listen to this approximately 1 hour presentation. And the topic is questions and answers for our Buffalo team, our turnkey partner in Buffalo Niagara Falls, Mr. Keith and Caleb Kanazi. Now, before I will have them come on, let me share with you the agenda. And uh, this is a Q&A, so I like the audience to be more engaging, meaning uh, in your chat box, you may, as we go through the presentation, you may input your questions, and throughout the webinar, Nika will alert me as to what some of the questions are out there. So this is a sort of and we can address as much as possible each and every question. So uh, per attendee, you can ask more than one question if you want. We will do our best to answer all of them. And meanwhile, this is a sort of an informal presentation. I want to make it a little bit more informal. I don't have a PowerPoint. I don't have a slideshow. But like I said, it's a Q&A. It's an opportunity for us to pick the brains of the brain behind this Buffalo Turnkey partner, Mr. Keith Kanazi, and his son, Caleb Kanazi. So throughout the presentation, I'll be asking some of the questions myself because I know what kind of questions you're dying to ask, and I'll help you to ask the right questions. And then toward the back end of the webinar, uh, I'm going to open up the May 2020 inventory listing, and I'm going to ask Keith and Caleb to talk about several of the highlighted listings, just to as a just to let you know what's going on, and the spreadsheet, and they can also go over the format of the Excel spreadsheet. There's a lot of technical acronyms some of you don't understand, so they will try to clear that out. So before I introduce Keith and Caleb, uh, the Buffalo Turnkey system partner we've been working with for the past several years. Many of our investors have purchased through their market, and many of you are on this call. So welcome everyone. I know who you are. So I would say 30% of you attending this webinar right now have already purchased at least one, probably more than one property here in Buffalo Niagara Falls. So thank you very much for having the faith of our system of the property, and I assume you guys are doing very well. And the rest of you are attending for the first time or have not purchased in this market, just have an open mind. And it's not easy. I'm able to uh, uh, convince Keith and especially Keith and Caleb to allocate their time for this 1 hour because they're so busy. Keith Kanazi and his team are so busy doing what they have to do to make the properties available for investors like yourself. So you guys simply do not know behind the scenes what really goes on, and hopefully Keith can open up the curtain, peel behind the curtain like the Wizard of Oz. The Oz, open up the curtain in the movie Wizard of Oz to see what's really going on. Okay, all right, I digress. So the turnkey, I mean the box turnkey system. Let me share with you my expectation for those of you that want to purchase in this area. So you know the expectation. So the concept, the business model behind buying properties here in Buffalo Niagara Falls is a buy and hold long term. If you want high cash flow, if you want more passive income, right? Consistent passive income, you can achieve that fairly quickly, right? Because I've been putting out newsletters for several years, like almost on like at least once or twice a month. We talked about the Buffalo Niagara Falls. You read my newsletters, right? You have to because I sometimes I bombard information about Buffalo Niagara Falls, so you guys been educating about this market. So tonight is just a review. So okay, without further ado, say hello, Keith, and Caleb. Say hello to the audience, just so you know.
Hi guys.
Hey, that was Caleb, and I'm Keith, and I'm the owner of the company. And Caleb is also an owner of the company called Blue Eagle Realty. He's actually a licensed real estate broker, and I'm just an investor. I buy and sell. So, but that's basically where we are.
So Keith, tell the audience what is your background, how long you've been in this real estate investing business, and what is your philosophy, what is your concept, what makes you guys so unique? Because people thinking, oh, you guys are typical Midwest market selling low purchase price homes of very old properties, but they don't get it. They don't see the true picture of the value of using your system, because you have a very unique system. The turnkey, the rehab you guys do are outstanding. You buy in the right area, although the houses are old, but it's all about cash flow, consistent long-term cash flow, putting the tenant in there. So tell us your business model, your philosophy, and what makes you guys so successful over so many years of helping out-of-state turnkey investors. Go ahead, Keith.
Okay, well, I've been investing in Buffalo Niagara Falls real estate for 30 years now. At first, I just started in investing as buy and hold, and moved after about 10 years to buying and selling, as I saw that there was a real market for especially outside investors outside of Buffalo who wanted to buy in this area because of the low prices and higher cash flow than they can get in their area. So I've been doing it for 30 years now, and the investment strategy is to buy. We really buy a wide range of properties. We'll buy doubles, singles, 3 units, 4 units, but we try to buy in areas where there is a good percentage of homeowners to renters. That tends to be our best area, especially for people who are non-cash buyers buying houses that are financing, because those are typically a little higher priced than the strictly neighborhoods that are almost all rental. But we do buy in those neighborhoods, and we do offer those. And we do, the prices range, and people say, well, how come there's a wide range of returns? And that has to do with the fact that some properties are more rehab than others. Some are in better neighborhoods than others. So obviously the better the neighborhood, the higher the extent of rehab, and the higher the price, and the higher the rents. I mean, some properties might be in a nice neighborhood, but they might be a 2-bedroom lower and a 1-bedroom upper, whereas if it's in the same neighborhood but a 3-bedroom upper and a 3-bedroom lower, it's going to obviously have a much higher cash flow and higher price. So those are the things that really determine the price, and some of them we haven't rehabbed a lot at all. If it's a good deal, I'll just buy it. We buy, just to give you an idea, we buy about 15 properties a month. We do also sell to homeowners, so we do have homeowner sales, and we've recently had some of our investors. We have a lot of Japanese investors, believe it or not, coming in and buying, and they are buying some of the houses that we would normally sell to homeowners for rental properties, which is kind of surprised us, but they seem to like that. They're really not very sensitive on the returns. They're happy with like a 8% return cash on, and they're buying all cash. Most of my buyers, just so you have been cash buyers in the past. It's really sort of unique with your group, Seewing, that we are selling now to a lot of people who are buying with financing. So that's actually a little bit unusual for us. Most of ours have always been cash buyers. We sell to a lot of clients in Israel and New York City, the Toronto area. So that's our typical network of buyers. And we sell locally too. Local investors also buy from us. Just to give you one more thing about our company, I'm very good at finding deals. I have a lot of ads running to buy properties. I go to all the auctions, tax foreclosure auctions, and regular auctions that they have on a daily and weekly basis in Buffalo and in Niagara Falls. So we're very well covered in terms of getting really good prices, and that's what I specialize in, getting a very good deal. We have our own employees. We have about 16 employees. Not right now, we don't because of the coronavirus, but we typically have about 16 employees. We'll get them back as soon as this thing is over. But we do our own rehabs in-house, or we have some contractors that are almost exclusively our contractors that do the rehabs. We're one of there's 9 Home Depot stores in this area, and I believe we're still their largest customer. And so you can see that we buy a lot of things in bulk, materials in bulk and auction. So we are able to buy at a really good price. We're able to rehab it at a really good price, and we're able to pass some of that savings on to the homeowners. But we are a turnkey business, so we do provide additional value in that way, because we basically do everything. We can set you up with attorneys, and we even offer to manage through one of our other companies, ABC Property Management. And one last thing, it's a family business. My son will be, talking, Caleb, and I have 3 sons. They're all in the business, and a daughter who is also in the business. She does a lot of the buying for me. She's very good at buying and negotiating deals. And then I'm my son-in-law and my daughter-in-law. So just the family alone, and my wife pays a lot of the bills of the business. So we're a real family business here. And then we have a number of other employees, obviously, and some of them are relatives, by the way. So it's very much a family business here. And I think that's about everything. I probably missed some things, but that's kind of the extent of what we do here.
Wow, yeah, go ahead.
No, I think that's a pretty good synopsis.
It is. By the way, many of our investors, your main point of contact has been Caleb Kanazi. Caleb is one of the Keith's son. Caleb, I don't want to embarrass you, but you've been awesome. You are, I don't know, well, I guess your father taught you very well. You are an awesome consultant. You are very prompt in responding. You're very, you provide outstanding client service. You're always available to answer my questions and address all the client issues. And so the audience does not know Caleb is rather young. You think he's a lot older, but Caleb, you are rather young, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm rather young. Yeah, you could say that.
So Keith, I don't know what you did, but you have trained your family and your children very well, and they represent your company awesomely. So we're really very, very happy to see that. So Caleb, so tell the audience, Caleb, what is your job? What is your job title? What is your in his process?
Well, I mean, I do a lot of things for the business. I'm kind of just the person who goes out and does what needs to be done, essentially. So I fill a lot of roles in that way. But if any of your clients have any issues or problems, they could always take them up with me. Or, I mean, that hasn't really come up at all either. But if they want to have any questions about the houses, basically, I'm an answers guy. So if anyone has any questions, they could always reach me. I'm pretty much always available, weekends, nights. I work all the time, so
That's for sure.
So anytime is pretty much good, and I'll just try to help you figure out what you are looking for as far as the property, and I'll just help you along the way and figure out the market basically over here in Buffalo Niagara Falls.
Okay, great, Caleb. Nika, have you reviewed any questions out there from the chat room? Any?
So we have three questions now. So question one, when you say the homes are older, what's typical in terms of age, and what's done to ensure they don't become a maintenance and repair money pit?
Well, you want me to answer that? Or?
Sure, go ahead.
Well, we do have, there are a variety of ages. I mean, obviously some are like 1900 to 1925. Those are the older homes, and it's all going to be reflected in the price. But what we try to do with the older homes, if we've rehabbed it, now not all of them are completely rehabbed, but what we do is we want to make it so that we don't expect any major thing to fail right away. Sometimes they do. I mean, we had one the other day. It had a water tank that was only three years old and it failed. I mean, just that does happen once in a while, but we try to make it so that you're not going to have anything major like a roof go in the first year or two, and or even we really try. Most of them will tell you, and most people are getting them inspected anyways, but we try to make it so that there's nothing outstanding of major repair that will be due. We would think within 5 years, but things do happen sometimes. And that's on ones we rehabbed. Not every property that we sell is rehabbed, and that'll be reflected in the price. I may buy a property that's already tenanted, and I'll, when you come and ask about a specific property, I'll tell you, that one's not rehabbed. That's one that we bought it. It had a tenant in it. It's selling at a lower price. A lot of those are going to have a higher return. And what'll happen a lot of times on those is the rents may be actually lower than the market rent too. And we don't just kick a tenant out when we buy a property that's already tenanted. We'll keep them in there. If it's going well, that's fine. It's still a decent return, but we'll sell it at a lower price. And when that tenant moves, we rehab the property. We usually can get more rent for it. So it actually benefits, but you'll know that that's a property that has a tenant in it. And when that tenant moves, you're going to have to paint, carpets, maybe throw a kitchen in, maybe do some, flooring in the kitchen and bathroom, that type of thing. And we can do that, and we do that. So as the property manager, we'll do that, and we'll do it at a reasonable price. We're not going to charge you a contractor rate. Like I said, we get it done a lot. These are rental properties. We're not doing high-end rehabs here with granite countertops and things like that. So there's a variety of properties that we sell, and some of the properties will be built in like 1990. Obviously those are going to be a higher price.
Yeah, and one thing I'll add about the age of the property is that just because it's an older house, 100 years older, so it's not like it's going to be going anywhere. The structures are all completely intact when we're selling them, or we'll let you know. Basically, there might be a property or two that will have a basement wall issue, but in which case we'll obviously disclose that to you and let you know. We try to be upfront and honest with you completely, so basically the asset that you're buying. So when it's 100 years old, you might think, that the roof might go sooner or something, but a lot of times it has a newer roof. These aren't original roofs. They're not original kitchens most of the time. Nothing's really original from 100 years ago. Basically, it's the structure that's original. Generally, these properties have had many rehabs over the years, so they're not brand new, no, but they're also not. Everything's not 100 years old. Obviously, you're not going to have a roof that's 100 years old. Roofs generally last about 25 years if they're newer.
And almost all of your buyers have had inspectors do an inspection report for them. And they usually find a few things, and we just go in there and we repair the items that are found on the inspection report. And if we don't, we'll say, well, that's not included in the price. If you want to do that, it's this much more. So that's how it typically works on a purchase.
Yeah. So anything that you want to have done additionally on the property, we can do it. We have the employees and we have everyone to be able to do the work. It's just if you want that done or not.
Yeah, that's very reassuring, Caleb and Keith, because most investors concerned when they are analyzing your market, they have this fear that buying such a old homes, even if rehab, what's going to happen like 5 years later, 10 years later? I mean, all the rehab costs in the future will be offset by all the cash flow gains that they have achieved in recent years. So they're thinking, maybe it's not a good purchase. So how do you address the issue with long-term buy and hold, buying one of your properties 5, 10, 15 years down the road? What are the expectations with respect to maintenance and repair and replacing the roof and electrical system going down, and what are the costs involved from the owner that
Roof would be very expensive. Okay, that would be an expensive cost. You want to definitely take a good look at the roof. And again, these are all reflected in the price. If the roof is older, it's going to have a lower price than if we just did a brand new roof on it. So that's a big expense. Basement, it's rare that we actually, I can't even remember the last time we ever sold a property that had a basement issue. We really don't. We usually try to fix them before we sell a property that way. So those would be big items. The water line coming into the house sometimes that might need replacing. That's an expensive item. If that's a copper line coming in, that's usually good. The interior rehabs are not maybe as expensive as you might think. This is Buffalo, New York, and the cost of living is a lot lower here than probably having a contractor in San Francisco put in a kitchen. And we can really do, just the simple Home Depot cabinets for a rental, paint, carpets. You're probably talking about $7,500 for an apartment. It's not uncommon for us to do it that way. So you're not talking about $20,000 to do an interior of a house. The plumbing is usually pretty good. That's usually been replaced, so with copper or PEX. So typically that isn't needed on if something goes wrong with the house, if something goes wrong with the tenant and the tenant does some damage. But an interior rehab is very possible, something like that. So we try to do that inexpensively for you.
Yeah, and generally we're updating the electric at least to be circuit breakers 100 amps. And then we always try to make big ticket items so that they're not going to fail within the next few years. So if there is an older hot water tank, even though it still might be working in the property, we're generally going to replace it. But even if you did have to replace it, a hot water tank, a lot of people overestimate how much they cost. We could do that probably for $950. A furnace at $1,500, and we could do it very very cheaply, essentially.
Yeah, compared to what it would be from a regular contractor.
Yeah, very, very reassuring. So what I hear you saying is, what you're telling me that it's okay for a out-of-state investor such as our group to buy your properties and have a long-term buy and hold, and the future repairs and maintenance should not be a fear factor, should not be a big ticket item. It should not affect the future of their investment because of all the reasons you just stated. I mean, there's a lot of misconception out there just because someone buying a very old property that all their future maintenance will offset by all the great cash flow they've been getting at the beginning. So is
right.
that
right? And say down the line, say 10 years, they need to replace the roof. Well, they got all that rent money that should definitely be able to cover that. And on top of that, they should be getting appreciation from 10 years. Properties 10 years ago are not the price that they are now. So we kind of see appreciation as a bonus here and buy for cash flow and kind of see appreciation for the bonus. Zillow has it that just Buffalo has appreciated in the last year 8.1%. So if you include that on top of your investment, and if you're doing a roof 10 years down the line, well, that property now has a brand new roof if you just did the roof, which means your property is worth more now that you just did that big ticket item 10 years down the road. So you also have that factor going for you as well.
And we have consistently, Seewing, we've seen appreciation. I mean, you should see what I was buying properties for 15 years ago. About half the price of what they are selling for now. So Buffalo has seen a substantial appreciation. And one of the things we haven't seen, and I think I've talked to you about the Seewing, is that in Niagara Falls, we really haven't seen the appreciation. And I just asked that Buffalo has seen crazy appreciation. I mean, I bought, there's a house I bought for $6,800 like 27 years ago and sold it for $168,000. Now I rehabbed it completely, but that's still a pretty good profit. You can't touch a house for $6,800. I sold the other one across the street that I bought for $6,000 for $75,000 without doing anything to it. He rehabbed it and resold it for $240,000. But so, I mean, we've seen appreciation, and I wouldn't discount that. I think that that's definitely a possibility. But what I was saying is that Buffalo has seen a lot of appreciation, but Niagara Falls hasn't quite seen that yet. And Caleb, just for the heck of it, Caleb just went into Zillow, and it said that the Niagara Falls market is very, very hot.
It said very hot on that, and
On
then,
Zillow, so
which was kind of surprising. And it said also that Niagara Falls has gone up 6% in last year. You could look this up for yourself on Zillow. And Buffalo, as I said before, has gone up 8.1% in the last year. So it's,
Yeah.
we have. I wouldn't discount that. I mean, I think that's always a thing that you look for in real estate. I mean, the idea that you buy a property, you're making a certain return now, but in the future, the rents are going to go up and the value of the property is going to go up. So even if you're breaking it, and I see that you might have, to me, a better chance of having properties go up in value here than you would in California. I mean, historically, California has been better, but I think we're seeing the smaller cities, there's kind of people from New York City are actually coming here to live because they're being priced out of, we're seeing a lot of people we sell a lot to homeowners too. We do a very big business selling, rehabbing and selling to homeowners. And we're seeing a lot of people that are coming from elsewhere to live here. And we're seeing companies moving here. Amazon's coming here, building a big factory right in Grand Island where I live. Other company, Geico, moved here. So because it's a lower cost of living here, they're finding that they can get employees less expensive, and there's a lot of universities in the area, so there's a pretty well-educated population here in Buffalo that they can garner good employees and not have to pay outrageous prices because the cost of living, mainly because of the housing market, is low.
So we have quite a few more questions that came up.
Okay, go ahead.
We have a few around the coronavirus situation. So let's see if I can probably have them all answered in one swipe. So they want to know how the coronavirus situation has affected everything over there. And they're touching on the mandate that no renters can be evicted for non-payment of rent. What's going to happen when it expires, and what happens if it is extended? You know, will owners be able to collect rent for the 3 months or not?
Great question. Great questions.
Yeah, I anticipated a question like that. I actually talked to the management. I don't really get involved all that much in the management company, and so it's actually the end of the month. May 1st. So I asked him what was the rent collections for this month, and it was 93%. So we collected 93. That includes my personal properties and all the properties that we manage. So it was a pretty good. I actually expected it to be lower than that. I just saw somewhere where they said a third of tenants. It was just on today, and I don't know. They didn't mention what city, but I think they meant nationwide, a third of people not able to pay their rent. But I think one of the things I think about Buffalo and Niagara Falls is that we do, most of our tenants in the properties you're buying are lower income tenants. And the lower income people really haven't been hurt as much as, say, if a person making $100,000 got laid off. I mean, I laid off my employees temporarily, and they're actually some of them are making more on unemployment. They get, in New York State, they get half of their pay, and on unemployment plus $600 from the federal government. So if they were making $1,000 a week, they get $500 from the state unemployment, and they get $600 from the federal government. So they're making $1,100 a week on unemployment, more than they were making. So that's typical with a lot of our tenants. They're not making most of our tenants aren't making 100,000, because if they were, they'd be buying the house unless their credit's bad. So most of our tenants, if they went unemployed and they were working in the restaurant industry, they're probably getting more money now than they were before. So I think that's why we're seeing that we're not losing. Now we are getting some that are taking advantage of that. Now there's no doubt about it. But they haven't got free rent. There's been some people trying to push Cuomo to give free rent, but that I don't think he's pretty adamant about not doing that. He knows that that would really hurt. And this is really coming. A lot of this came from New York City, where rents are very high, and a lot of people own huge complexes and condominiums and buildings and that. So Buffalo's not like that. There's not a lot of multi-family properties here. So I think that it's not going to be as bad. The ones that are taking advantage of it, they can. It's I think June, and it could possibly be extended. We are starting to see the curve here. I mean, we do have high incidences of the coronavirus, but mostly it's downstate in New York. But we are in Erie County where we are. It's still level. We haven't really seen the big decrease of hospitalizations and deaths. So I think we're probably May 31st before they start really opening up a lot of the the floodgates of different businesses. They will slowly open up the construction industry. That's one of the first that they're considering out of the non-essential. That'll be one of the first that goes up. Homo's already said that. So that's kind of what's happening. There are going to be some tenants taking advantage of it. We are seeing that already. So we are seeing, we were at a pretty good clip of collecting more than 93% in the past. So, and that's in Buffalo. Now, I didn't check Niagara Falls, because Niagara Falls, we do some subcontracting of the rents. So Buffalo is 93%. In Erie County, it's not just Buffalo. We do, even some of your investors have Cheektowaga. So that's at 93%. Niagara Falls, I have a feeling it's going to be a little lower than that, but I don't think it's going to be a lot. It might be 85%. And they do have to pay. They're not getting a free ride. So once this is over, they get a moratorium, and we will be able to file for eviction. And there are agencies. Any tenants who haven't paid, we're actually sending out a letter, and we're giving them, there's some agencies that are helping for helping people. And so we send them a letter, and we give them the names of all the agencies that they can apply to for assistance to pay their rent. But that's basically what's happening with the coronavirus here. Erie County hasn't shut down quite as much as New York City, and we are still able to do any repairs on properties. We still have a crew that does repairs. We are doing some rehabs, not with my personal employees, but with small subcontractors. Believe it or not, the way they did it in New York State is, if you're a small independent contractor and you have 1 or 2 employees, you're able to work. So because they didn't want those people to have to go on unemployment working for themselves, so they're actually still able to work. So I have a few of those people doing rehabs right now, and we also have people doing repairs. Repairs we're allowed to do.
So on rehab, go ahead.
Go ahead, Nika. What additional questions out there? Very good
So
questions. Keep
on rehab work that you've done, what type of warranty do you provide?
We don't provide any warranty on the work that's done, any actual warranty. We sell the properties at a reasonable price. I mean, you got to keep in mind that these properties, it's not like I'm getting an inflated price for these properties. We could probably put them on the market and sell them for more than what we're selling them for. We've already found that. But what we do, it's very difficult to put a rental property on the market because you're disturbing the tenants. And then when the tenants think you're selling the property, it becomes very difficult. So we typically sell these properties with the tenants in it. The tenants, believe it or not, they don't even know it's sold because we're managing it now. And when it's sold, we're still managing. So it's none of their business that the property got sold. The only thing that changes is we now have a management agreement with you, but the tenant, he still pays his rent to ABC Property Management. So that's one of the reasons why we sell them. These aren't properties that are on the market. The ones that we sell to homeowners, those are on the market. But the ones that we sell to investors, we don't sell them on the market. And we don't really have any problem selling properties. So, I mean, I'm not going to give the store away by guaranteeing all kinds of things and making it my accounting life a crazy hassle. So there is no guarantees on any of that stuff. You know, you just have to, you know, if something happens, it happens. Now we do take care, like if you bought a property from me in the hot water tank, it's happened, went the first month I sold it to you, I take care of it, you know, or anything like that, so a month or two that, and even if a tenant doesn't pay rent, I'm usually coughing up the rent for the first month if something happened, or second month, I'll do something like that. But I'm not gonna guarantee, you know, the house or any of the, I will guarantee anything that we agreed to repair, if that wasn't done to satisfaction, you know, so in other words, if the inspector came in and said, there's a plumbing leak that he found, and that same plumbing leak comes up 6 months later, and I would fix that, okay? But if something happens that's, you know, randomly failed, I'm not guaranteeing those things. These properties sell very quickly and very easily, and we're selling them at very fair prices. So I can't throw in a lot of other things. Our profit margin is not as high as you might think with these. We do a lot of volume. That's how we make, most of our profit is made strictly off of the volume we do, not by selling them at inflated prices. Like a lot of, believe it or not, a lot of turnkey properties, if you look around, they sell them at tremendously higher prices over what the market value is. Ours are not sold that way.
Yeah, Keith, yeah, you're very correct, because the other so-called Midwest market, like for example, Cleveland, Ohio, Detroit, Michigan, St. Louis, Missouri, or Indianapolis, Indiana, you know, they you know, on the surface, they appear to sell the same type of properties that you guys are selling in Buffalo Niagara Falls, but that's where the difference lies. You guys, not only you guys sell a property at a very, very low price, at a very good price, but the rent is very high relative to the selling price. Not only that, you allow my investors to get financing, which is another value add, whereas the other Midwest markets, they sell it at a full purchase price, and they oftentimes inflate the purchase price, and the investors are not even aware of that. So that's very, very, very unethical. So you guys are very ethical. You guys have the right price, and fortunately, you allow our investors to do financing. So we really appreciate that you allow this thing for my investors, and and we can the appraisal works most of the time. So many of our investors are financing the purchase price successfully, especially when our lender, Richard Avani from Wells Fargo, are able to do so many small loans. He's capable to do all these very small loans that allows our investors to achieve tremendous amount of cash flow, cash on cash return, cap rate, and all the return on the investment, because they put in such a low down payment. For example, a duplex, you guys are selling for a typical duplex like $59,000, and the gross rent on both doors are $1,100. Investor do 25% down payment, and the net monthly cash flow is a whopping $500. It gives you like, you know, 1.5% cap rate, and then like a 28% cash on cash return. You know, if you incorporate 2% appreciation projection, then your total return on investment are like whopping 40% with a finance purchase. So where else? There's nowhere else in the Midwest market you can achieve that, right? So you guys provide such a tremendous value add, Keith. I really appreciate that. And our investors need to acknowledge this. They need to acknowledge that this is a unique. You guys are selling a unique product, which will bowl our investor very well for long-term cash flow and appreciation to achieve their retirement. So there it is. Right, Keith?
Yeah, I mean, we've been doing this a long time, and we've been selling to investors for a long time. I've seen a lot of people that do this turnkey come and go. They make a quick killing really quickly, and then everybody gets mad at them because they find out they paid way too much for the properties and they're gone the next year. That happens all the time. I've been doing this for a long time, and you can type my name into website, you won't see anything written about me doing anything unscrupulous. We try to treat people very fairly. And all the properties, I should mention one other thing. You were asking me how I determine the properties. The properties I buy, these are properties I would have in my own personal portfolio. And I do. That's the whole thing. That's why it's not a big deal to me, actually, whether I sell it or don't sell it, because I'm making money on them right now anyways. So there's really, now one of the things the coronavirus has done, I should say, is I haven't been able to buy as many properties as we normally do. So we don't have as much new inventory coming in, but we're trying to. I've got my leads out there. I bought 2 last week, but that's a low week for me, and so it's been a little tougher. Real estate agents here are not actually allowed to. Caleb can probably talk more to that, but aren't really allowed to show properties, or?
No, they weren't allowed to show properties before, but they are now, as long as they stay within state guidelines, that they wear masks, gloves, stay 6 feet apart from their clients. What I found a lot of people are doing is they're just letting their clients in the house. They mostly are trying to do vacant houses, and not with tenants or in them, or just other homeowners. But you can show the house now, essentially. But okay. A lot of times they'll just do like virtual showings. The agent will take a video camera through, and they'll just show them the house that way too.
And we've sold 3 properties in the last week and a half to homeowners. One, Caleb, we just put it on the market, what, 3 days ago, and we got multiple offers. We've asked them to give us our highest and best. We already got an offer. We put it on for $79,900. It's in Niagara Falls, by the way. We put it on for $79,900. We already got an offer of $86,000. And there's 3 offers, and they got 2 other people looking at it today. So we told them highest and best by tomorrow at noon. So
okay, guys, yeah.
You and I, the market's still pretty strong. So what they're saying about Niagara Falls and Zillow is very correct.
Okay, we got 5 more questions from the audience, Nick. Okay. So let's address the 5 remaining questions. We have at least 10 minutes left, only 10 minutes left.
I'll let Caleb answer him. He doesn't talk as much as I do.
Yeah, you tend to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So how often do pipes burst in Buffalo? And are the property taxes pretty high?
So the property taxes basically go off of the assessment. And on our sales sheet, I don't know if you want to pull that up or not, but on our sales sheet, we do actually put all the taxes in there so people can just easily see what the monthly tax is. But they're basically done per thousand. What is it, $28 per thousand?
Well, it actually depends. Buffalo is actually a little lower than Niagara Falls per
thousand. Yeah.
So it really depends on where the property is. And the suburbs are much higher than the city in terms of taxes.
Yeah, so it's right on the sheet, so people can easily see that for the taxes at least. What was the other question?
How often the pipe breaks?
When was the last time we had a pipe break? That was been a long time. We generally, we're leaving the heat on. We try to keep it, even if they're vacant, to 55 degrees. These places, there's a freeze line. All the pipes should be going into the house. There's should be under that freeze line. And then when was the last time we had a pipe burst? Did we have one this year even?
The greatest chance for that is on a property that doesn't have a basement. Most of our properties do have a basement. Some of them will have a crawl space. If they have a crawl space, We have seen where the pipes can freeze if we get a really cold winter. This winter, I don't think we had, and between the properties I own and the properties that we manage, there's probably 300 properties, and we didn't have one this year.
Yeah, and if you get insurance on the property, which the bank, if you're going financing, they're going to make you get insurance. As long as you do have the heat on at the property, you should be covered for that. You could check your policy, of course, because those vary, but most of them will have it written where if you have the heat on, you will be covered for that, and they will give you a substantial amount of money to just repair that, so it won't come out of pocket.
Okay, very good. Okay, Nika, what are the 3 remaining questions?
So what's your average tenant turnover and average vacancy time?
Well, the rental market in Buffalo is extremely strong. And again, that is also dependent on the area, and it's also dependent on the type of property. Single family properties are in very high demand. In Buffalo, if we put a single family property up for rent, we probably get 20 people that would come to see it, and we get to 10 or maybe 6 or 7 of them will want it, and we get to choose. So we can rent it very quickly. As long as we get it, we'll get it ready, clean it up, paint, whatever needed to do. And they rent right away. Niagara Falls, single family properties. If it's a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom, those tend to be, that could take a month, but not usually longer than a month to get it rented. And tenants, again, if it's a single family house, this is why a lot of local investors love the single family properties. And especially if you're a remote investor. I keep telling Seewing this, but a lot of his investors always like to go for the doubles. But the single families, if you're looking for long-term rental, the tenants in single families tend to stay. So that you're probably looking at an average of, I don't know, 3 years on a single family property, and a 1-bedroom, that you're probably a year. That's probably.
Yeah, it always depends on the tenant and everything. It's very variable for that.
Yeah, and it depends on the area too. So
we try to get the best tenants so that they want to stay the longest, as long time too.
So Caleb and Keith, why the Buffalo Niagara Falls rental market consistently are so strong and the vacancy are so low? I mean, why is it? Where's the interesting?
Well, I think lately we've had an influx of, and this goes back a little ways, but we had an influx of immigrants coming to Buffalo. I think the federal government was putting a lot of the immigrant population here because of the low cost of living, and it really was, despite what Trump says in a lot of ways, it really was good for Buffalo. I mean, you'll see stuff about the Buffalo. There's all kinds of different Burmese restaurants, and it's actually, and a lot of them came here with money, believe it or not. They're buying houses cash, surprisingly. So I think that the big influx, mostly on the west side of Buffalo, is a very high immigrant population. Remember when the Syrians were supposed to come? They're earmarked 400 of those Syrians refugees were supposed to come to Buffalo. Trump didn't allow it, but just to give you an idea of that. So we do have I think that's causing, and they're very good tenants, actually. We've had a number of immigrants for tenants, and they pay well. They're not as clean oftentimes, because they're coming from a different world, but they are really good tenants. So I know that's caused it. We've also seen a lot of baby boomers moving from. It used to be when I was younger that if you lived in the city, you wanted to move out and live in the suburbs. Now it's the other way around. All the millennials want to live in the city. So we've seen a big influx of millennials moving into the city, and they're building more buildings. Buffalo has seen they had a Buffalo billion where they actually put a lot of money into the Buffalo area, a lot of new restaurants, and they redid the waterfront, and so that I think that's caused a lot of people to reconsider Buffalo, and it's a really good rental market, and now we're seeing Niagara Falls starting to turn to that too. That Niagara Falls is lagging, and so that's why I think Niagara Falls might be the area. And it looks like we've been found out as I looked on Zillow, and they say that that's a hot area all of a sudden now. So.
Okay, Nika.
So on yes, on the spreadsheet, in the far right column, one of the entries says sale to homeowner. What does that mean?
That means that property, this has almost all our properties on here, but and if it says sale to homeowner, it means that those are properties we've kind of reserved to sell to homeowners. As I mentioned in the beginning, that sometimes we've had investors buy those properties. Usually there's not a rent associated with the property, but what happens a lot of times, we buy a lot of properties at the auction, and sometimes there's a tenant already living in there. And so some of them, even though it says sell to homeowner, it might have a rent associated with it because we're just renting it temporarily while we're rehabbing other properties. We always have a number of properties we're working on, so we'll keep them rented for a while. But typically those properties were reserved. We bought them with the intention of selling them to a homeowner. And as I mentioned, we have had a couple of your investors and some of the Japanese investors that we deal with buy those houses too, and we've rented them out, but they won't have as much return.
Yeah, and that's the reason why we're selling them to owner-occupied people, is because they generally won't have as good as return as these other areas as well. So they're generally going to be a higher priced, better area property with a lot of other owner-occupied people living around there too.
The homeowner market here is extremely strong. We put a property up that's rehabbed in the homeowners, and we're typically almost always getting multiple offers on them. It's extremely strong market, and that's suburbs. It's all over Western New York.
Very interesting. So we only got a couple of minutes left. Nika, any last questions out there that are impactful to address?
So they want to know, when you rehab, do you look for things to fix that may not last for more than 6 months?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so everything, I mean, if the roof looks like it's curling and those shingles are kind of blowing off or anything, for example, then we'll just, because we know it's cheaper for us to do it than for your investors to do it down the road, we'll basically just do a new roof there. Or if a hot water tank, even if it's working and it has some rust on it, we'll just replace it, because we could do, we can replace it at a much cheaper cost than you might be able to do down the road.
Yeah, especially if we're already working there. It's really no labor, then it's just the cost of the hot water tank, because the guys are already working there. And the kitchen, is not like a big thing for us to do. If the kitchen looks ratty, we'll replace it.
Yeah, again, we're buying everything in bulk. We have our own employees, so the cost for us to do something, we're willing to do it. So if you do get an inspection and you see some additional things that you want to have done, like you want to have a newer electrical service or something, then we'll say, well, okay, just add $1,000 to the property and we'll put a brand new electric service for you in there, or something like that. We're willing to negotiate and work things out in terms of the condition of the property too. But if it's something that we should have already done in a rehab, then we'll normally just take care of it and do it for free too. So it kind of depends.
Well, one thing I wanted to mention, not every property is rehab. Sometimes we buy it, it's already got a tenant in it, and we'll tell you. And sometimes it'll say on the right, it'll say not rehabbed. So the price will reflect a not rehabbed price, which means that eventually if that tenant ever moves out, some of them stay there forever. And we've had properties, we bought it with the intent of, well, when the tenant moves, we'll rehab it. But as long as the tenant's paying and I'm getting money and they're not causing me any pain, I just rent it. I got good cash flow coming in, and when the tenant moves, I'll rehab it, then sell it. But I've noticed some investors, they're saying, wait, well, I'll buy it now, and then when the tenant moves, I'll just pay you to rehab it. And that's a perfectly fine way of doing it. You pay a lower price. If you're financing, that may not be the way you want to go, because then you're not getting the financing on the rehab, if you understand what I'm saying. But if you're not financing and you're paying cash, that's a perfectly legitimate way to go. Just buy it like I did at the lower price. And when the tenant leaves, you rehab it and the rent will go up. Nothing wrong with that strategy either. It's basically what I'm doing.
Yep, very good. So we only have 1 minute left to the top of the hour. So one thing I want to mention on this spreadsheet, which is causing some confusion on the fourth column from the left of the spreadsheet, it says, like contract, future, ready, and reserve. Can Caleb or Keith, Caleb,
Right.
can you
Yeah, you can
clarify
do
that?
Sure. So the ones that say ready, that means that they are already rented, and those are the actual rent amount and the finalized price. So those are ready, and you could purchase those properties. The ones that say future, we're just buying them essentially, and they have not been rehabbed. They are not rented, and they're going to vary on when they will be ready. So all those future properties will eventually become ready. And then the ones that say contract, that means they're not available anymore and that they're already under contract. The reason we kind of leave those properties up there is because we use this sheet for ourselves and our own purposes as well to kind of keep track of our properties. So those won't be available since they're already under contract with someone else though.
One further clarification, for those of us who are financing a purchase, you can only pick ready category. You cannot pick reserve or future, because the future properties are only for all cash buyers or self-directed IRA full cash buyers only, just FYI.
Right.
And some of the future are actually rented. I should say they're not all not rented. They're rented, but we sometimes put future on it because it's not, meaning it's not rehabbed. But some of them are actually
Yeah,
rented.
but those will be few and far between.
And a lot of the future ones, they're ones we're selling to homeowners. They're in the process of being rehabbed.
Yeah, so if you look on the other column to the homeowner props, those are probably properties you're not going to be particularly interested if you're looking for cash flow.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think we should be concluding, but let me share with you my takeaway, investors out there. For those of you attending, thank you so much I'm sure you don't have to tell me, I'm sure you learn a lot. Even I learn a lot from this webinar, and it's very insightful. I'm very glad that we invite Keith and Caleb Canazzi to do this live webinar. We're gonna invite them back. I know they are very, very busy on the ground doing a lot of things behind the scenes. You guys have no clue what's going on, but it's all about taking care of our investors. Clearly this is a tremendous company. I mean, we have a great relationship with Buffalo Turnkey Properties, Keith and Caleb Canazzi, and the whole staff. So we're looking forward to do a lot of business, continue to do so. Many of our buyers have purchased multiple properties, and some of you are attending this webinar right now. So it's a long-term buy and hold. It's a cash flow and appreciation. There's a lot of misconception. There's a lot of misconception and a lot of inaccuracies going on out there. For those of you that attended this webinar, now you know the real deal. Now you hear it from the horse's mouth. We have dispelled a lot of misconceptions about this market. It's a very underserved market. It's a top secret market. So you can buy multiple properties here, diversify your portfolio, achieve very significant cash flow, and most important of all, you have a great turnkey system that does everything for you. They have your vested interest at heart. They are highly reputable, tremendous amount of honesty and integrity and transparency. The Buffalo Turnkey Properties, Keith Canazzi, head honcho. Thank you so much. You guys, oh, by the way, can you guys, Keith, can you do a quick recap before we leave this webinar?
Okay, well, I thank you for inviting Caleb and I. We look forward to doing more business with your clients, and with even with financing. And we also, one of the things we didn't touch on, we also have a very good attorney who works very closely with Wells Fargo, and I'm working on a package of properties that might be buying. So hopefully we'll have more coming up if that transpires. But and Caleb, you have anything to add?
No, that pretty much I think covers it. And stay safe.
Thank you so much, Keith and Caleb. Thank you so much. Have a nice day. Be safe and be healthy. And Nika, thank you for holding my webinar. Thank you, everyone. This is Seewing Yee. Good luck. And if you want to take the next step, contact myself first. Then afterwards, you will consult with Caleb, and he will walk you through the whole process from beginning to the end. Thank you so much. Have a blessed day. Goodbye.
You too. Bye.
Bye.